Dear students and viewers, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to online class of Kishoreganj Government Boys High School. This is Muhammad Abul Kashem, Assistant Teacher English. Today I am going to take a class on English grammar. My today's topic is transformation of sentences according to structure, that is simple, complex and compound. The class is for the students of class 9 and 10. So let us start the class. Transformation of sentences according to structure, simple, complex and compound. So first of all we have to know what is the structure of a simple sentence. So look at the structure: subject, finite verb. The sentence which has a subject and a finite verb is called a simple sentence. A simple sentence has a subject and a finite verb. Only one subject and a finite verb. Complex sentence. A complex sentence contains a subordinating conjunction at the beginning of a sentence or at the middle of a sentence. So the sentence which contains two clauses, one is dependent and another will be independent. The dependent clause contains subordinating conjunction. Compound sentence, the sentence which contains two clauses and two principal clauses, and two principal clauses are joined by a coordinating conjunction. It will be a compound sentence. That is, the sentence which contains a coordinating conjunction, it will be a compound sentence. So students are told to follow the structure properly, otherwise they can't transform simple, complex and compound. Look at the example. Simple sentence: finishing his classes, he went to mosque. Because of her being ill, she could not go to school. So look at both of the sentences. Both the sentences contain only one subject and a finite verb. Only one subject and a finite verb. So both the sentences are simple sentences. Complex sentence: as he finished his classes, he went to mosque. Or since he finished his classes, he went to mosque. As she was ill, she could not go to school. Since she was ill, she could not go to school. So look at the sentences. Both the sentences contain subordinating conjunction as or since. That's why they are complex sentences. And here as or since clause is called dependent clauses, and rest of the another clauses here, second clause is called independent clauses. Compound sentence: He finished his classes and went to mosque. She was ill and she could not go to school. So look at the sentences. Both the sentences are coordinating conjunction and here two principal clauses are joined by and. That's why they are compound sentences. So every compound sentence contains a coordinating conjunction. Every complex sentence contains a subordinating conjunction. A simple sentence may not have a coordinating or subordinating conjunction. A simple sentence contains a subject and a finite verb. Now transformation of complex to simple to compound sentence. Look at the first rule. So it is a complex sentence because it contains since, as, when. So if a complex sentence begins with since, as, when and subject of the both clauses are the same. Look at the subject 1. It is a subject of dependent clause. Subject on verb 2. It is a subject of independent clause. Here dot 3 dots refers to rest of the sentence. Now we have to transform it into simple. Look at the structure. We have to use ing form of verb 1. That is, we have to use ing form of dependent clause, and rest of the sentence will be the same. And you know, independent clause will be unchanged. Will always be unchanged. Now compound sentence. So we have to omit since, as, when, and instead of comma we have to use and, a coordinating conjunction, to make it a compound sentence. So look at the structure. Subject 1, verb 1 and rest of the sentence, and verb 2 and rest of the sentence. Because here subject is not repeated in the second clause, as subject of the both clauses are the same. That's why in the second clause, that is in the principal clause, subject is not repeated. So look at the example. Complex sentence. As he bought a big fish, he became very happy. So if you want to make it a simple sentence, we just only use the ing form of dependent clause. Here bought is a verb of dependent clause. So we have to use ing form of bought, that is buying. And rest of the sentence will be unchanged. Compound sentence, we have to omit as, and instead of comma, in place of comma, we have to use and, a coordinating conjunction, to make it a compound sentence. So if a complex sentence begins with since, as, when, and subject of the both clauses are the same, then we have to use ing form of verb dependent, ing form of the verb of dependent clause, and rest of the sentence will be the same. And if we want to make it a compound sentence, we have to just omit since, as, when, and in place of comma use and, a coordinating conjunction. If the subject of the both clauses are the same, we usually do not repeat the subject to make it a compound sentence in the second clause or principal clause. Now the second rule: if a complex sentence begins with since or as and subject of the both clauses are not same, look at the sentence, subject 1, subject 2, that is subject of the both clauses are not same, they are different. Then we have to follow this structure to make it a simple. We just omit since, as, and instead of verb to be or to have, we have to use ing form of to be and ing form of to have. Here ing form of to be is being, ing form of to have is having, and we have to use the rest of the sentence. And you know, the second clause, usually the second clause becomes unchanged, remain unchanged. Now compound sentence. So if you want to make it a compound sentence, we have to just omit since, as, and instead of comma, in place of comma, we have to use and then it will be a compound sentence. So look at the example, complex sentence. As or since the tea was hot, David could not drink it. Simple sentence. The tea being hot, David could not drink it. Compound sentence. The tea was hot and David could not drink it. So look at the complex sentence. It has begun with as or since, subordinating conjunction. So if you want to make it a simple, we have to just omit it as since, and instead of be verb we have to use be. Then rest of the sentence will be unchanged. Compound sentence, we have to just omit as or since, subordinating conjunction, and in place of comma we have to use and to make it a compound sentence. Now the third rule: if the complex sentence begins with since, as, and subject of the both clauses are the same, both clauses are the same, subject 1, subject 1, then we have to make it as a simple like this way. We have to use because of at the beginning of a sentence, because of possessive form of subject 1. Then if the verb is to be, we have to use being, that is ing form. If the verb is to have, we have to use having, and then we have to use rest of the sentence. And the second clause will be the same. Now compound sentence, we have to just omit since else, and instead of comma or in place of comma we have to use and, then it will be transformed into compound sentence. So look at the example. As or since he was ill, he could not go to school. It is a complex sentence. Because of his being ill, he could not go to school. Compound sentence, he was ill and he could not go to school. So look at the complex sentence. It contains coordinating conjunction as or since. So the simple will be, we have to begin with because of, then we have to use the possessive form of subject 1. Here subject is he, and the possessive form of he is his, and the ing form of be verb, here was is be. That's why instead of was we have to use be, and rest of the sentence will be the same. Now compound sentence, we have to omit as or since, and in place of comma or instead of comma we have to use and. That is, using and we have to join two principal clauses. If you omit as or since, then these two sentences will be two principal clauses, two independent clauses, and when two independent clauses are joined by and or other coordinating conjunction, it will be a compound sentence. Now the fourth rule, if the complex sentence begins with though although, then we begin simple sentence with in spite of, then we use possessive form of subject, ing form of verb 1, that is ing form of the verb of dependent clause, and rest of the sentence will be the same. Now compound sentence, we have to omit though although, and in place of comma we have to use but. Now look at the example. Complex, though he was poor, he was honest. Simple, in spite of his being poor, he was honest. Compound, he was poor but honest. So look at the example. The sentence contains though. Complex sentence contains though. Though is a subordinating conjunction, that's it is a complex sentence. So if you want to make it a simple sentence, we have to use in spite of at the beginning of the sentence. Then we have to use the possessive form of the subject. Here subject is he, and possessive form of he is his, and the verb is here to be verb was, that's why you have to use ing form of to be verb being, and rest of the sentence will be the same. Now compound sentence, he was poor but honest, so we have to omit though, and in place of comma we have to use but. Here the subject and verb of the both clauses are the same, that's why but coordinating conjunction does not follow subject and verb. That is, when the subject and verb are the same, then we do not repeat the subject and verb in the second clause, that is in the principal clause. Now the fifth rule, it is a conditional sentence. The sentence is begun with if. So if follows you, second person, and second person follows base form, negative, and the principal clause is in negative, that is the verb of principal clause is in negative. Look at the clauses. If clauses, verb is in base form will be in negative. Independent clause, verb will be in negative. So if a complex sentence begins with if and verbs of the both clauses are in negative form, then we have to transform it into simple, like following this structure. We have to use without, then ing form of base form, and rest of the sentence, and the principal clause will be the same. And compound sentence will be base form, not using negative form, base form and rest of the sentence, and the principal clause will be joined by or. So look at the rubric: if without ing, or. Now look at the example, complex sentence: if you don't eat good food, you won't be fit. Simple sentence: without eating good food, you won't be fit. Compound sentence: eat good food or you won't be fit. So look at the sentence: if follows second person follows base form of negative form of base form, and the verb of second principal clause is in negative form. So verb of both clauses are in negative form. So simple will be begun with without ing form of base form. Here it is a base form, and ing form of it is eating, and rest of the sentence will be the same. Compound sentence: base form, and rest of the sentence or, and then or will follow the principal clause. Now the sixth rule, it is also a conditional sentence. Look at the sentence here. Verbs of the both clauses are in affirmative form. So simple sentence will be begun by ing or base form, and rest of the sentence and the second clause, that is principal clause, will be the same. And compound sentence will be base form and rest of the sentence and the principal clause. So if a complex sentence begin with if and both the verbs of the both clauses are in affirmative form, then we use by ing form, base form, rest of the sentence and principal clause to make it simple and compound sentences. So look at the example, complex sentence: if you eat fat, you will be fatty. Simple: by eating fat, you will be fatty. Compound: eat fat and you will be fatty. So look at the complex sentence. Here the complex sentence is begun with if, and if follows second person, and second person follows a base form, affirmative form, and the verb of principal clause is in affirmative. That's why the simple sentence will be begun by ing form or base form, and rest of the sentence will be the same. Compound sentence, base form and rest of the sentence, and the principal clause. Now the seventh rule, it is also a conditional sentence. Look at the sentence. If follows subject, any subject, not only second person, any subject, and past form. Past form will be in negative, and the verb of principal clause will be in negative. It will be also past form. So the simple sentence will be without ing form of past form, ing form of past form, that is base form of ing form of base form. Then we have to use the principal clause. And in compound sentence we have to omit if, and instead of comma we have to use and. So look at the rubric: if without ing, and. If follows subject and past form, then we will follow the these rules to transform into complex, into simple, into compound. For example, complex sentence: if you didn't eat fat, you don't become fatty. Simple: without eating fat, you don't become fatty. Compound: you didn't eat fat and you don't become fatty. So look at the complex sentence. If follows subject, and subject follows a past form. Here wouldn't become is in the future indefinite in the past, and the simple will be without ing form. Here it is ing form of it is eating. Without eating fat, you don't become fatty. So without ing and rest of the sentence. Now compound sentence, we have omitted if, and both the clauses are joined by and, are coordinating conjunction. Now the eighth rule, it is also a conditional sentence. So look at the structure: if follow second person, and the verb will be in negative, but the verb in principal clause will be affirmative. Verb of if clause will be in negative, verb of principal clause will be affirmative. So look at the structure of simple sentence. We have to begin the simple sentence with in case of, then we have to use possessive form of subject 1. Here subject 1 is you, then we have to use not, ing form of verb 1, and rest of the sentence and the principal clause will be the same. And if you want to make it a compound sentence, look at the structure. We have to use base form, not negative form, base form, and rest of the sentence and principal clause will be joined by were. We have to use were as a coordinating conjunction. Now look at the example: if you do not go there, I will go there. So look at the complex sentence. If follows second person, and second person follows a negative form of a verb, and the verb of the principal clause is in affirmative. So the simple will be in case of possessive form of subject, then you have to use not, ing form of verb, then rest of the sentence. Compound: go there or I will go there. So we have to use base form and rest of the sentence, or and the principal clause. Now the ninth rule, it is also a conditional sentence. Look at the sentence. If follows you will follow an affirmative verb, but the subject, but the verb of principal clause is in negative. So if clause will be in, the verb of if clause will be in affirmative, the verb of dependent clause will also, independent clause or principal clause will be in negative. Then we have to transform it into simple like this way. In case of possessive form of subject 1, ing form of verb 1, and rest of the sentence and the principal clause. And compound sentence will be base form, rest of the sentence, and we have to use and as a coordinating conjunction and the principal clause. For example, complex sentence, if you go there, I will not go there. So look at the sentence. The subject or verb of if clause is in affirmative, the verb of principal clause is in negative. So the symbol will be, in case of you going there, in case of possessive form of subject, ing form of verb, then rest of the sentence and the principal clause. Compound sentence, base form, here go there, then we have to use and coordinating conjunction and the second clause, that is principal clause. So students are told to follow the rules properly, follow the structure of the sentences properly, and they are asked to follow the rubric of the sentences if, in case of, and. So if you follow the structure, the rules properly, I think your weakness in transformation of sentences according to structure will be gone. So it is no more today. Thanks for watching the class. The next topic will be transformation of sentences according to structure, part 2. So wait until then. Thank you.